Life is really interesting. Sometimes you just get so surprised to find how things can start unfolding, and before you know it, things are just going your way. It's like all of a sudden, everything you ever wanted in your life, everything you ever planned to do or set out to do in your life is just happening for some reason. So this is why I always like to just take my time and just be patient as much as I can and take life as it comes and not try to stress so much, because sooner or later everything you want in this life is just going to align. All you just have to do is try to play safe, try to be on the safe side. I know once in a while here and there you need to take risks, which is important, and I encourage it, but it just shouldn't be like a situation where you totally just are under pressure, or you are having to chase your dream so hard to a point where you can't enjoy every moment of your life. I wouldn't encourage that for anyone. Just like Rome was not built in a day, or just like a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Learn to take your steps one day at a time. Trust me, everything is gonna finally make sense. All your dreams will finally come true. Everything will finally come true. And also, don't be afraid to step out there and do whatever it is you want to do. And trust me, pay no attention to what anybody thinks about you. One thing I've come to learn is people only claim to care and do all sorts of things. The truth is, nobody cares what you do. Everybody's busy working hard to improve themselves. Everybody's busy doing that. So if you always care about what people will think, what people will say, you always end up being the same person in the same place, making no progress. So be unapologetic about yourself, about what you want to become, and do it. It's about time to be radical, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, if you don't make it in this life, you have yourself to blame, I'm telling you. So take those necessary steps now and do it. About this time of the year, somewhere between March and April, I happened to lose my dad. He died of a very, very terminal disease, and it was a very, very painful moment for me. And I must say, by the time that was happening, I think it was a moment or a situation which felt like I was ready for it. It's like I had prepared myself for it. So I'm gonna tell you, or I'm gonna explain to you why that moment felt like I was ready for it. But before I do, I just want to go into a brief summary of how my life was, how my life shaped itself before the time that I happened to lose my dad. So, first of all, I would like you to know that I grew up as this boy who happened to have lost his mom at a very, very young age. I don't even remember how old I was. I just remember one day I came back from school and I received the sad news from my parents, from my dad, that is. At that time, My parents were divorced. I know this is a sensitive subject, but it's just something I would like to share because I believe this can help someone out there. Or you listening to something like this, you can relate and probably figure out how you can turn your life around. Because a lot of people go through moments or situations in life where they became so traumatized as that even when they became adults, they never recovered from it. When on my channel I talk about things to do with drug and alcohol addictions and all those things, I've come to learn that some of those habits are as a result of how traumatized people are because of their past experiences. So growing up was not an easy thing for me, especially in my teens and the time when I was approaching adulthood. So I'm saying this because the more I learned, the more I knew about the circumstances that surrounded my parents, the circumstances that surrounded my mom during the time when she died, or what really happened and all that, the more I felt the pain. You know, I'm gonna say this, you know, like when you're just a little kid, just a little boy or little girl growing up, you don't know nothing. Trust me, you don't feel the pain. You don't experience anything. It doesn't mean anything to you. By the time you get to know these things, that's how they begin to affect you. The way you think, the way you talk. So for me, I found myself in a situation where I grew up longing for that motherly love. You know, they do say that there's no love as great as a mother's love. And that's actually true. It's really true, because look at the two between a mom and a dad. The mom is the one who gets to experience most of the pain of bearing that child or giving birth to that child. 9 months of that pregnancy is not a small thing. It's not. That's why the bond between the child and the parent is stronger on the female side. So I never grew up with that. So I always had that longing for a bond, for a connection with the feminine parental side of my life. And as a result, the more I began to learn or know things that happened to my mom, for example, before she passed, the more I got hurt, the more I became. So as a result of not having experienced that motherly love when I was just a little kid, I grew up craving for that love, craving for that motherly affection. And trust me, because of that, I did all sorts of things just to fill up that void, just to feel something in my heart so that I could experience that emotion. Because I was in another world, honestly. Like, it was just a crazy world for me. I remember at some point, I blamed my dad for everything that happened to me. It's only now that I realize that I could have done better while he was around. But I've come to learn that everything we do in life, there are lessons to be learned. There are lessons to be learned. And I think I did learn my lessons. This is why when I come out on this platform to share my experience, I'm hoping that someone would learn from this. I'm hoping that someone will be inspired to do better in life. Because imagine that emptiness led me to things like smoking, drinking, womanizing, and doing all sorts of things like clubbing. Like I told you, I became very violent. I was a thug. I was really extremely violent. I was one dude that would swear often. I used to use F words like crazy, man. Like, people see me nowadays, I could even preach the scriptures or do some Bible study teaching. This is not the person I was. So, it's a situation or a life where most people are still struggling with today. The traumas that their past experiences have caused them. But at the end of the day, I am here because I overcame these challenges. And I'm glad that I did, because many of my fellow friends and peers that we grew up with, some of them are not here to share these wonderful stories and testimonies that I'm sharing with you right now. So, when the moment came for my dad's passing, I had made peace with him. I had already asked him to forgive me, because as I grew up, I eventually realized that he wasn't the one to blame. Regardless of what happened in the past, I had to take full responsibility of my own life. And taking responsibility, I did. By the time he was passing, I had stopped drinking, I had stopped smoking and all that stuff. And I remember one of his last days, before he actually... During the last days of my dad's life on earth, I remember one evening. By then I used to stay by my cousin's place, and I just got a phone call from one of my uncles, my dear uncles from outside town. So in the call, he told me of how my dad had passed away and that I needed to go and attend the funeral. When that news came to me, a week or two prior to that, something happened. I received a call from Dad himself, and in that phone call, my dad clearly stated that he had tried everything he could in terms of looking for medical remedies, in terms of looking for help, because he'd been suffering from that sickness for quite some time, the name for which I'm withholding for personal reasons, and family, of course, because I never thought there would be a day when I would share this information out here, but I believe that sharing this information would help someone out there who might have been going through a similar situation. So prior to that phone call I received from my uncle, I remember my dad calling me and it was like, I really don't know what is wrong. I really don't know what the problem is, but I've been trying to get myself sorted. Seems like nothing is working. And I remember as I was talking to him on that phone call, he was like talking to somebody who had already died. That's how I felt for some reason. It was as if I'm talking to him, and then deep down, it's as if my spirit was telling me that your dad is actually gone. And I remember I started crying. And when he asked me why I was crying and was telling me, no, don't cry, you need to be a man now, what stuff, I remember giving him a fake, lame excuse. I didn't tell him directly why I was crying. But from that night, I started preparing myself psychologically, mentally, every aspect about myself, so that when that day finally happens, I won't be devastated or like I won't go wild just doing crazy things. Yeah, so that's what I did. I prepared myself. From that experience, I learned that prevention for sure is better than cure. Earlier, I did mention that around this time of the year, between March and April, was the time when I lost my dad. And before he passed, I was ready. I prepared myself. And the purpose of this video was to share some knowledge about the importance of preparing yourself before any tragedy strikes. Because you never know what life can bring. Life is full of surprises. So that's the story of my life. And that's how, when that information came to me, even when it was time for me to go to the funeral, it did hurt, yes, quite all right, but I remember being strong and all that stuff until after some point, I think I broke down and cried, but I wasn't as much hurt and devastated as I could have been. But one thing I would like to make mention is, had I not prepared myself, things would have actually gotten worse. Things would have been crazier. Things would have been more, I don't even know what I can say. So thank you for having taken time to listen to my story. I know that this might have been a long video, but I tried to summarize it as much as I could. And like I said, I'm not really professional when it comes to like documenting my life stories, but I hope and pray that you will get to pick or learn one or two things from my story. Thank you so much for having taken time to watch my video, and I'll see you in the next one.